podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Joe from Startuprad.io, your startup podcast and YouTube blog from Germany, welcoming you to this month in German Startup Edition October 2021. Of course, again here with Chris from New York. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Fall has started. I haven't had a pumpkin spice latte yet. Maybe today. Who knows?
I actually haven't had a pumpkin spice latte, like a real one as well, but I got a present, the pumpkin spice syrup, so I can make a fake pumpkin spice latte. For everybody listening to this or watching this, we recorded this news episode on October 25th. Note that there is also another episode of our unicorn tracker getting published alongside this episode in order to keep the news brief. Today, we have to announce that N26 reclaimed the title of Germany's most valuable fintech, but not startup. That title is still with Celonis. Sono Motors is filing for an IPO in the US ahead of even delivering their first car, and Corona is leaving the first traces in the startup scene. Less startups, but more funding for the surviving ones. Housekeeping, time to brag just a tiny bit here. We are scratching another magic mark right now. We just scored number 104 in Chartable's global tech podcast charts. We're getting so close to cracking the global top 100. Keep downloading, guys. You're amazing. Thanks for your support. Talking about top news, as we said, Germany has a new most valuable fintech. N26 took the title back from Trade Republic, but the way to this monster funding was not easy. They raised $900 million at a valuation of $9 billion, becoming Germany's most valuable fintech and one of the world's 20 most valuable fintechs as well. You may remember they had trouble with the bank oversight and finance oversight body BaFin here in Germany, and they actually limited their new business due to many things. N26 accounts been used in scams, not following strictly the money laundering rules and stuff like this. So they had some trouble, and now they only have a limited amount of potential new business they can generate in Germany. Also, N26 CEO for Germany, not the co-founder, the CEO, but the person in charge only of Germany, leaves the neobank for Hawk AI. Also, Germany's Flixbus acquired the legendary US Greyhound bus company from the current owner, UK-based First Group, for 120 million euros. That's 140 million US dollars. First Group was interested in selling the company already back in 2019. Of course, then Corona hit. Greyhound itself is, of course, suffering from Corona. They generated more than 10 million euro losses in Q1 2021 and cut 50% of their headcount since the start of Corona. Flix Mobility, the company behind the Flixbus brand, was valued at 2.5 billion euros at their last fundraising in June this year. They already reached unicorn status back in 2018. And since this is the second time we are trying to record this, because we got completely kicked out of the internet and then Chris experienced some difficulties, we already told our audience, or we should tell our audience, that Flixbus here in Germany, even though it's called Flixbus, even though there are a lot of buses driving around in their branding, in their logo with the colors and all that stuff, in Germany, the company doesn't own even one bus. They are just the mobility platform, and small entrepreneurs own one or more buses, and they are franchisees of Flixbus. They are working for them. So they don't own any buses within Germany, but they changed strategy abroad, and this is one of the places they are doing this. Chris, what's your experience with Greyhound?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it from the movies, and it's always this nostalgic thing in the 60s, and the buses, and it's more of a prop. I think I probably took Greyhounds once or twice. I usually go with either more luxurious buses or even cheaper buses, Megabus, but also Megabus. And I think either Mega or Bolt Bus is one of the brands that also belongs to the Greyhound brand. It's not great.
I have to admit, I personally also took Greyhound buses back when I was an undergrad student because they're cheap. And for the very simple reason, the place where I went to college was only served by Greyhound and a subsidiary of American Airlines. So that have been my two choices. Christian.
Definitely a place, though, where you can learn a lot from about the country. You meet all walks of people.
Yeah, really and good. Talking about learning about the country, you take the ecosystem, right?
Yeah, so in the ecosystem, we got a couple of articles that help you understand the German startup landscape a bit better. For example, Gründerszene, a website always really well covering the German startup scene. They have a list of 11 female business angels from Germany that you should know. So fortunately, there is some progress being made there. Overall, though, the Kreditanstalt für Wiederaufbau, KfW, came up with a report saying that the number of startups in Germany decreased in 2020 by about 30%. I think that has to do with Corona and the fact that probably it wasn't a time for people being really brave with their own endeavors. Germans in general being a bit more risk averse than people in other countries where probably a crisis like Corona would have been a reason to exactly start a new business, whereas the Germans are more hesitant. We got news that Germany is going to mine lithium under the Erzgebirge in Saxony, which is like a mid-range mountain range. But it's still an interesting story, I thought, because the white gold there, lithium is used in batteries, notebooks, tablets, smartphones, basically everywhere. And usually it's a raw material that would be sourced in South America. So interesting there that apparently there is some parts of Germany where it can also be mined. We have 7 takeaways from the Axel State of European SaaS report. Probably the biggest one being that SaaS capital raised in the US, in Israel, and in the EU is at historic levels. So a bit more about this is also in the show notes. And we are, as always, not just looking at Berlin and Frankfurt, but also at other parts of Germany. And there we also have a little list of surprising parts of Germany where new businesses are blooming. And among them is a city called Leverkusen, which is also the headquarters of Bayer, Marburg in Hesse, and the Main-Taunus-Kreis, where you live, just outside of Frankfurt. And which makes us also move on to the hubs.
Yes, and we should tell the people you are contractually obliged to have a New York siren in the background. If that is not happening, you are owing me a donut. As we said, talking about hubs, Frankfurt here. FreshBooks, the Canadian unicorn, acquires Fastbill to boost growth in Canada. No purchase price was published, but according to our information, a large share was paid in FreshBooks shares. The price could be in the range of 100 million euros, meaning 75 to 120 million euros, depending on the multiple and the actual revenue. Former C-level executives of Frankfurt-listed evergreen VC fund FinLab had differences with the former majority stakeholder. Now they want to use their connection to raise their own VC fund. And a developing story. Bitcoin miner Northern Data forecasted 120 million euro revenues and delayed the publication of the numbers. Keep in mind they are listed. Then they published the numbers and came out with 16.4 million revenues, less than 20% of the forecast. Of course, finance oversight BaFin filed charges, and we'll keep you updated on this story. Christian, I do believe you have a soft spot for Heidelberg, right? Oh, there's a siren. I heard the siren.
There you go. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, Heidelberg, I haven't been that often, but it's on a lot of tourist lists, obviously. And it's a lot of like Germany in a nutshell that you would expect if you come to Germany. And it's in, Baden-Württemberg, the state where I used to live. And there we have the Strüngmann billionaire twin brothers, kind of like the German Winkelwasses, I don't know, who made their BioNTech success possible as large-scale investors. BioNTech is the partner of Pfizer, what is known here in the US as the Pfizer vaccine. And now those twin brothers invest in the Heidelberg-based fintech Get-Safe. We also have some more background about them in the show notes. We also have Hamburg as a much bigger city, more well-known in the north, where Hayflow raises $6 million in funds in order to improve click flow on websites. Hamburg-based circular bioeconomy startup Traceless Materials received a 2.4 million euro EIC grant to quickly scale up its technology. That's around like $2.5 million. In Munich, where is the headquarters of Flixbus, which we just talked about. But there's also another schmaybe unicorn. The Munich-based solar car firm Sono Motors files for a US IPO, as is reported by Reuters. The IPO could then value the company with more than $1 billion, but the first cars will only be delivered in 2023. And we have German online dating website Parship, which is looking for an IPO in Frankfurt in spring next year, and now hired 2 investment banks for this purpose. In Cologne, we see that Iris Capital, Newforge, and Instana founder join existing investors in a $27.8 million funding in Arango DB, or DB, to be more precise, because the Cologne-based startup offers an open source NoSQL database. Once from Cologne, where we have like the number, but an NCE, so the O of the word becomes the 1, is the first joint investment from Deutsche Telekom and SoftBank. It's an Internet of Things startup, raising in total 43 million euros, $50 million. Apologies for the little phone intervention here. And we move on to Constance, where Fruitcore Robotics grabs 17 million euros in funding. Constance, of course, to the southwesternmost end of Germany, where there's Lake Constance. You see, connect the dots. And Austria, where there we also have one tiny news bit, being the Norwegian IT giant Visma, who bought the Vienna-based cloud accounting startup ProSaldo.net. And you might have already figured it out, because Austria obviously is an independent country and not Germany anymore, but it is a German language country, just like Switzerland. And so we like to have a look at them too. In Switzerland, we see that Conext postponed their IPO at 6 in Switzerland, which was originally planned for early October due to unfavorable market conditions, they said. We have Locati, a workplace analytics startup that raised 7.1 million euro. We have the ETH spin-off Scewo, SCEWO. They raised 8.5 million Swiss francs, which is roughly 7.8 million euros, of venture capital for their stair climbing wheelchair. Frontify, a company that got $50 million from investors like Reva, High Sage Ventures, as well as existing investors for their platform, on which companies can manage their brand presence. We have $1 million for a sport tech startup called Coach Better to digitize football coaching. And we have Volkswagen's heir and one of Elon Musk's investors, who invests in Switzerland-based car subscription startup Carify. So we're also here looking at this idea of why not make car ownership a subscription service. So much about what's happening in the different startup hubs all over German language country. The DACH region, as we say, DACH. Deutschland, Österreich, Schweiz. Back to you.
Thank you. Let's follow up with the general news company section. The Germany company Autark, spelled AUTARQ, may just have surpassed Tesla with their solar roof tiles. Talking about SPACs here, there's one article, Factbox, major European SPAC listing this year. The market seemed to cool. They are writing, European SPACs have raised $6.6 billion so far this year, according to Refinitiv data. While that's up just 500 million from 2020, it's still only about 5% of the value of the SPAC deals done in the United States 2021. There's another piece of news on SPACs. New SPACs, GFH ESG Acquisition SE is announced. It shall be listed in Frankfurt to buy startups and tech companies in sustainable technologies. The company is initiated by well-known founders and a corporate CFO. They want to raise 150 million euros. GoPuff, the Philadelphia-based quick commerce startup, enters the German market, adding to an already hot competition with Joker, Gorillas, and others. CureVac, once a hope in Germany for developing a corona vaccine, stops the development of the current corona vaccine and starts over with a new approach. The first vaccine candidate did not fulfill the expectations. And then we have multiple PE funds are still fighting over the buyout of Zooplus, the takeover. Initially 390 euros per share was raised 40% since mid-August, and currently the shares are trading at 490 euros. This leads the market to conclude there is more in it for the shareholders. We keep you up to date. And there is venture capital. 8 Roads Ventures raises $450 million VC fund, targeting 15 to 20 scale-ups in Europe. Vehiculum wanted to turn the leasing industry upside down. Now a funding round fell through and they have to file for insolvency. Adam Newman-backed Go2 Global acquires German moped sharing startup. DWS buys a stake in UK-based retirement fintech Smart. Bellois, German money pit. They are a Swiss-based insurance company. Their Berlin-based insurtech Friday is not working out as planned. There's a little bit of sad news. A helicopter crash kills the founder of August Intelligence. The startup in the center of the Amtor affair involved questionable lobbying by a member of the German parliament, the Mr. Amtor, and he was lobbying for August Intelligence. Very selected fundraisings, really a very, very small selection. Inkit books 59 million euros investment. Germany's construction tech startup Schüttfix raises 43.1 million. And factoring fintech Billy raises 86 million euros. That's 100 million US dollars, tripling their valuation. Adding to that, they also have from their partners Magerkurt Volksbank, Raisin and Warengold a 170 million euro line of credit. And finally, Landesbank Berlin issued more than 1 million credit cards for Amazon's German customers. Now it appears the bank shifts strategy and ends the cooperation. Chris, it was as always a pleasure working with you. There are some articles in Stay Ahead of the Curve, and we will be back next month. Hey Chris, as always, it was a pleasure working with you. I think we meet again shortly before Thanksgiving, and then we publish the next November news on Thanksgiving Day. How would you like that?
Let's do that. The pleasure would be all mine.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
That's all, folks. Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.